This is episode 27 of Cady's Corner, presented by Godzilla Media, sponsored by friends over at Johnstone Supply in Troy, as well as Mohawk Honda over in Scotia, Glenville. And don't forget, the final football Sunday for Godzilla Media in this month of October, being presented at the Hideaway at Saratoga Lake Golf Course. Broadcast starts 11:30. Go say hi to Levesque and Gaz. Dressing your Halloween best is what I would recommend because it is Halloween weekend after all. I'm Brian Cady. My Twitter handle is at Brian Cady, BrianCady. Questions, comments, concerns, Brian.Cady at GozillaMedia.com. Let's just jump right into it. We all know what we're here to cover. So let's just go right into it. The NLCS, 4 games to 1, Philadelphia beating the Padres. Look, Philly was considered a potentially dangerous team before the year. Then they get out to a crappy start with Joe Girardi. He's sent packing. Rob Thompson steps up. He takes over, gets this team to the last wild card spot in the National League. They go out. They take care of business against the Cardinals, beating them in 2 games in the wild card series. Then they wipe them out with Atlanta. And then they just dominate San Diego. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no real explanation to it except for the fact that this team just came up big in moments when they needed to. Reese Hoskins, all 4 of his hits in the NLCS were home runs. Kyle Schwarber, he was 6 of 15 at the plate. He killed it. Bryson Stott even had a decent series at the plate. But obviously, all the glory right now goes to Bryce Harper. 8 for 20 at the plate in this series. 5 of those 8 hits being extra base hits, including the game-winning 2-run homer in Game 5 in the bottom of the 8th to send the Phillies to the World Series, essentially. Padres, Josh Bell did well at the plate. Brandon Drury did well at the plate. Other than that, a whole lot of no-showing pretty much in that series. Juan Soto did hit a homer in Game 5, but all in all, just it was not a good look. As San Diego pitching, they threw over a 5 ERA. Clevenger was a hot mess. He didn't even get an out and gave up 3 runs on 3 hits in the game he started. Uh, Darvish, not exactly his greatest, although he was relatively decent overall. Didn't deserve to get the loss in Game 5, but so glad he didn't. But Hader was good. Mania awful. Musgrove awful. Snell was awful. Just when only one of your starters is putting out any kind of decent performance in a series, that's a problem, and that's what happened with the Padres. Meanwhile, if you look at the Philly staff, now granted Nola didn't do well at all in his one start in the series, but aside from that, um, Ranger Suarez pretty damn good in his start. Zach Wheeler, 2 very good starts against the Padres. Um, I mean, when you got starts like that and you were still able to recover from the bad start of Bailey Falter, when you can put that all together, you're it's remarkable what can happen. And this Phillies team is clearly, I would say, a quote unquote team of destiny to come out of the National League. And they just got the job done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They did what had to be done. Um, just remarkable what this team was able to do. They were able to win. They were able to win games in a multitude of ways. They were winning. They won a pitcher's duel in Game 1 between Wheeler and Darvish, where Darvish pitched well enough where he didn't deserve to lose Game 1, but got the loss because it was a hard luck loss. Then Game 2, they won a highly offensive game. Game 3 was a pretty regular game. Excuse me, the Padres won Game 2. Excuse me. Phillies win Game 3 in a normal style game. Then they outscore in an offensive slugfest in Game 4. And then the Phillies just happen to have the last laugh in Game 5 with Harper's 2-run shot in the bottom of the 8th. So it's there's a lot of weird momentum and good karma riding this Phillies team right now, where they've only lost 2 games. They're 9-2 in the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like they snuck by in every series. They swept St. Louis in 2 games in the wild card series. They beat the Braves in 4, I believe. Was it 3 or 4? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Um, and then they took care of business Let me take a look here. Yeah, they took care of Atlanta in 4. Then they just took care of the Padres in 5. They're 9-2 in the playoffs. This is no joke. This is a team that's just sliding by the hair on their chinny chin chin. They've been going out and dominating teams in these series, and and now they have to go against a Houston team. We'll break down the ALCS in a second. They have to go against a Houston team that's 7-0 in their 2 series so far this postseason. So really, you're getting the 2 teams that have played the best baseball in the last 2 to 3 weeks coming together, and there's you have to basically say there's no luck involved for either of these teams making it to where they are based on the way they played the last few weeks. Um, were there certain bounces of the ball maybe in 1 or 2 games that helped either team along the way? Yes, probably. But overall, these teams are going out there and forcing teams into submission in different ways every time. Sometimes it's their offense doing it, sometimes it's their pitching that's doing it, but they're still making it happen. And you have to applaud them for doing that and going out there and pummeling these teams into submission. Um, so congrats to the Phillies. Congrats to Bryce Harper for getting his flowers now, it feels like. After all this time of being the guy who got all the blame in Washington to the point where he went packing to Philadelphia. Um, Now he's getting his flowers finally, and good for him. He deserves them. Rob Thompson, you have to assume he'll be back at least next year and beyond for this Phillies team, regardless of what happens against Houston, because he has done a phenomenal job since taking over for Joe Girardi. And then all weird karma getting put into it. Joe Girardi's working MLB Network this postseason. He has to sit there and watch the team he got fired from 5 months ago go to the World Series now. It's just an odd dose of, I don't even know if you really call it karma. It's just an odd slap in the face of reality in the grand scheme of things. Um, it's just very, very, very bizarre. Before we get into the ALCS, real quick, just want to remind you about our friends over at Johnstone Supply in Troy. Look, my friends, my family, my comrades in arms, it is getting colder outside. Leaves are changing. That means we're getting closer and closer to winter, which means you need to make sure, if you haven't turned it on already, that your furnace is in good working order. And if it's not, have the good friends at Johnstone Supply check out to make sure you get the best brands, the best prices possible for your furnace system, whether it's Goodman, Fujitsu, Westinghouse, all in stock, all at great prices. And hell, if you need a brand new heating system altogether, Johnstone Supply can hook you up too as well. You can talk to George, good friend of the Godzilla Media brand. Also, you can talk to Kev, James Bird. Any of them will help you out to make sure you are not left out in the cold this winter. Give them a call, 518-272-5922, or visit Johnstone Supply at 2600 6th Avenue in Troy. Make sure your furnace is in good working order. Or hell, maybe just go get a brand new heating system altogether. Installed by our friends at Johnstone Supply, 518-272-5922, johnstonesupply.com, or visit them at 2600 6th Avenue in Troy. That being said, before we truly get into the ALCS, we have to understand how the ALDS ended, because we have not had a show in over a week because with all the rainouts and this and that and the other thing, timing was just weird between the ending of the ALDS with the Guardians, and then the start of the ALCS. So I decided to just hold off on having this episode get done until after the League Championship Series was over. And here's where we're at. So let's just kind of go back in time for a hot second as the Yankees snuck through the Guardian series in 5. So Yankees were up 1-0 after Garrett Cole's terrific start in game 1 against the Guardians. Game 2, Shane Bieber and Nestor Cortez put on the show we all expected. Tyone gave up the game in the 10th inning when it went to extras. Cleveland made it 1-1. Then in game 3, this is the game. This was the night, I should say, where my animus and personal feelings about Aaron Boone came to the forefront of my mind again. Because you got mixed results out of Sevy when he pitched 5 2/3. Judge snapped out of his brief drought to start the series. You have Bader and Cabrera homering. Peralta gets 5 outs. But then you got to ask the question, where the hell was Clay Holmes in the ninth inning? He only threw 16 pitches the day before in game 2. You also could have had Herman come out, worst case scenario, to pitch the ninth inning because he was on your ALDS roster. But no, what do? We go out for the bottom of the ninth with a 1 run. Was it 1 run or 2 run lead? Forgive me for not remembering. But Melee commits an out to start the inning. Then Cabrera attempts to make a catch on a Miles Straw bloop, which just boggled my mind. I don't know why Cabrera attempted to make that catch the way he tried. And then you have Stephen Kwan bloop single. So you have 2 on, 1 out, and you decide to go to frickin' Schmidt. Clark Schmidt is your go-to guy in crunch time in this game over Peralta. So then you get the Rosario RBI single. J-Ram hits a bloop single against the shift to load the bases. Then Schmidt gets Naylor to strike out, and you're thinking, okay, we can kind of breathe now. We still have a 1-run lead, and we only need 1 more out. But then Oscar Gonzalez hits a walk. Oscar Gonzalez, not Straw, not Naylor, not Quan, not J-Ram. Oscar freaking Gonzalez hits the walk-off 2-run single. And you're at a point where there's a few things you need to get on board about. Number one, why do you consistently have your best hitter in your lineup leading off in your lineup with no protection? Like, you're screwing yourself at that point by putting your best hitter top of the lineup. So you don't have any way to set him up when he gets his first at bat to begin with. And then the mismanagement of the bullpen late in that game just and then Boone had he had the chutzpah after game 3 to be contentious with the media about him screwing up and bringing Schmidt in for Peralta in that bottom of the ninth instead of going to Clay Holmes or even Domingo Herman. He got contentious about it. Screw you. You're the one that screwed up. Own up to it. So then, thank God, he has Garrett Cole ready to go on for game 4 on regular rest. Hicks refuses to call a fly ball to allow the first run of the game for Cleveland in the bottom of the third. They got Josh Naylor pimping a solo homer the entire time he's around the bases, like he's a middle school boy that hasn't hit puberty yet, or even met a girl with a bare breast yet. And then Naylor explains to Lawrence Shahadi later in the game that he calls Garrett Cole his son. You know what, Josh? Screw you. Then later in that 4th inning, a phantom hit by pitch makes the Yankees lose a challenge in that inning. Cole somehow works out of it, gets through 7. And then Holmes closes it out to force game 5, which is where we get Tyone named the starter for game 5 that Monday. But then because the game gets rained out and moved to Tuesday, they switched to Nestor because now Nestor is on regular rest for what would be game 5. And you got what you would hope. Stanton and Judge both homer. Nestor holds true. Bullpen holds up. And you can call it taking one for the team, although it wasn't really. Hicks was ruled out for the season after suffering a left knee injury during that game 5, after he collided with Oswaldo Cabrera on a pop-up in the 3rd inning. So in the end, Hicks gone for the ALCS, and this is what we get. So, this is where the beginning of the end was for the Yankees. Now, you could technically go back to game 3 of the ALDS and say that was the beginning of the end where you could see Aaron Boone was going to screw the pooch on this. That's not where it really, from an Aaron Boone standpoint, yes, that's where it began. Where it really began and where the Yankees really effed up was their roster decisions for the ALCS that started on last Wednesday. So they replaced Marwin Gonzalez, obviously Aaron Hicks, and Lucas Luque with Greg Weissert, Frankie Montas, Oswald Peraza. So even though they were ready to go and fully healthy, Aaron Boone openly said, we don't need DJ, we don't need Benintendi, we're going to go after them with who we got and who I want. And he also said, screw you to Rob Marinaccio, which is deplorable. So you left on purpose, arguably, not arguably even, your two best position players that weren't on the roster in the DS, and quite possibly the best reliever you had off that was on the DS roster. You left all three of them off your ALCS roster, despite them all being good and ready to go. You could just stop right there and not even talk about the 4-game sweep and say series over. Because you look at what happened in this ALCS. There is not a single Yankee that looked like an actual Major League Baseball player at the plate hitting, except for Stanton, Rizzo, and Harrison Bader. IKF, yeah, he went 2 for 7. I can't give too much credit to him because IKF also messed up in the field. But the only guys who looked like actual Major League hitters during the ALCS were Stanton, Rizzo, Bader. Carpenter went 1 for 10 with 7 strikeouts. He struck out his first 8 at-bats overall in the playoffs. Josh Donaldson bats 1 for 13. Aaron Judge goes 1 for 16. Do you want me to keep going? Glaber goes 3 for 15 with 7 strikeouts. Out of his 12 outs, 7 were strikeouts. Trevino, in the 3 games he caught in the ALCS, 0 for 11 with 2 strikeouts. This team couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat in this series. And you could see the problem starting in the ALDS. The fact they happened to go against a staff and a bullpen like Houston has just compounded the issue that was already starting in the ALDS. Game 1, Verlander crushes. Taillon does his best to match Verlander pitch for pitch through 5 innings. And then once again, here's Clark freaking Schmidt, who turns a 1-0 game into a 3-0 game. And yes, there were missed opportunities throughout the night with runners in scoring position. But again, Aaron Boone having a hard-on for Clark Schmidt. You threw away game 1 at that point. You threw it away. That's the only way to explain it. You threw it away. Game 2, again, Framber and Sevy. A pitching duel going back and forth, and the Yankees still can't do anything to get more than 2 runs on the board. The Yankees only managed more than 2 runs in this series once, and it was when they lost Game 4 at home. Because Loizaga gave up 2 runs in the 8th. The top of the 8th, when they were up 5-4. Game 3, Cole pitches fine. No, not spectacular, but he does fine. But then Aaron Boone decides he's not going to trust Garrett Cole to go back out there with 95 pitches, and he just gives the ball right to Trevino instead, and there goes your game. Yankees can't even do anything against Christian Javier. They get shut out at home in a must-win. And then Game 4 Sunday night, Nestor leaves the game after 2+ innings with a groin injury after giving up 3. He ends up giving up 3 runs in his score line. I mean, listen, let's just call it for what it is. You let Chas McCormick school you in this series. Chas McCormick was one of their most clutch hitters the entire series. You're able to hold Yordan Alvarez to 3 of 14 with no big hits to mention. Yuli Gurriel, Alex Bregman both batted .333 in this series. That's expected. You let Martin Maldonado go 2 for 7 in this series. You held Kyle Tucker to 2 for 13. You held Jose Altuve to 3 for 16. Although one would say you fumbled the bag on that because Game 4, Altuve suddenly breaks out for 3 hits and basically wins the game for Houston. But you let Jeremy Pena and Chas McCormick school you. Chas McCormick has 2 huge home runs that basically win 2 of the games for Houston. And then Jeremy Pena He's smacking the ball here, smacking the ball there. Uh, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 4 ribbies, uh, 3 runs scored. Like, you made Jeremy Pena look like Lou Brock out there. It's absurd. It's completely absurd. So that sets up the World Series between Houston and Philly. And I don't even know what to say at this point about the Yankees. Let's just be blunt about the New York Yankees at this point. The top 4 reasons the Yankees are not in the World Series. Number 1, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat. Your hitting was abysmal, especially the strikeout ratio, the strikeout to hit ratio. It was abysmal. It was pitiful. And don't get me talking specifically about Aaron Judge. Don't get me talking about him. Number 2, errors in the field. Inexcusable. In October, completely inexcusable. I don't care if it was Donaldson, IKF, Glaber, whoever, inexcusable. Number 3, bullpen shortcomings, which leads into number 4, and that's Aaron Boone. I don't care if you like him or love him or hate him, Aaron Boone fumbled the bag multiple times in this playoffs. And I am of the opinion right now, the first thing you need to address if you're Hal Steinbrenner, you need to address Aaron Boone's future as a manager and Brian Cashman's future as a general manager. You need to address that right here, right now, before you even hit the month of November. You cannot sit there in good faith if you're Hal Steinbrenner and tell Yankee fans that Aaron Boone is your guy, because he has fumbled the bag multiple times in the postseason. He's pooped his pants. He has to go. Because as much as I'm not like diehard Yankees fans and believe that the Yankees should win every single year when they should win the World Series every single year, this was the year where they looked like they should have won the World Series. And then they decided in August and September to play subpar baseball, lose their shot at being the number 1 seed in the American League playoffs, and then completely fumble the ball against Houston and got swept in 4 games. Embarrassed, I'd say. Not even swept. Embarrassed. And now that leaves you in a pickle where Aaron Judge is a free agent now. Zach Britton's a free agent. Aroldis Chapman's a free agent. Severino has a team option. Who knows if they'll pick that up? Anthony Rizzo has a player option. He'll probably pick that up. Andrew Benintendi is a free agent, but you just screwed him over during the postseason. Tyone's a free agent. Chad Green's a free agent. Miguel Castro's a free agent. Who really cares, though? You have a lot of questions to answer this offseason, but it has to begin and end with Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman. Now, I don't have a straight answer about Cashman yet. I need another week to think about that. So I'll get back to you on that during the World Series or maybe after it. But I tell you, man, I had my questions about Aaron Boone throughout the season on and off, but I have them 20 times more now after the postseason. I got nothing, man. I'm beyond frustrated. Is even the freaking word for it right now, as I'm trying to make sure I don't swear. Frustrated is not even the word right now. I am supremely angered by that. I don't know if you want to call it an appearance in the ALCS. It was more like a disappearance in the ALCS. So now we get to figuring out who's going to be the one that takes the winning drive. Who gets the World Series trophy? It's a great question. It's a fabulous question. It's one that's going to be answered very easily by the following equation. Can all these young arms, McCullers, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, can all these young arms continue producing around Justin Verlander being their ace the way they have in the ALDS and ALCS? Because if they can, it's going to be extremely difficult for Philadelphia to score runs in this series. And if it's going to be that kind of series, I give the edge to the Astros. if these younger guys in the rotation for Houston start pooping their pants, for lack of a better phrase, and showing their lack of experience in the postseason, then the Phillies have a tremendous chance. So that to me is the X factor, the true X factor of this series, is the young arms in the Astros rotation with McCullers, Valdez, Javier. I'm gonna say Astros in 6, and I feel like that's a very safe pick right there. When I say safe, I mean not as in I'm picking the favorite, so it's safe in that way. Not I feel like I don't see a sweep, but I also don't see complete domination. I think this comes out as a relatively equal series because you also got to factor momentum. Momentum is a hell of a thing, and the Phillies have a ton of that right now. So I just feel you just feel this weird vibe from this Phillies team that's unquestionable and undeniable. Um, so I feel like they really do make a series out of this, which is why I'm saying yeah, Astros in 6 instead of Astros in 4 or 5. I think this gets back to Houston eventually, and the Astros win in 6. That's my pick. That now remember my picks have gone 500 this whole playoff. I was 2-2 in the division series, 2-2, 2-2 in the wild card, and 1-1 in the league championship series. I had Astros and Padres, honestly. So you could you could take. I've been 500, so this World Series pick is going to make or break me, just like having a dependable vehicle can make or break you, whether you're looking for a new job or you're trying to get classes done for your college degree. And the people that can help you with that is Mohawk Honda because the seasons may be changing. The one constant right now is the buying and selling experience at Mohawk Honda. We'll be greeted with a smile and treated with respect. Their new vehicle inventory is ramping up with pilots, passports, ridgelines, CRVs, HRVs, whole shebang. But it's also the best time more than ever to sell your vehicle. They've had the Kelly Blue Book instant cash offer on and off throughout 2022. And Mohawk Honda will continue to buy cars. And in some cases, you may be able to sell it for more than you even paid for it originally, which is just another advantage you get from the number one volume dealer in the capital region. So stop by, check out the location in Scotia Glenville, talk to the general manager, Greg Johnson, any of the numerous sales consultants on hand who will always be available to help you in the buying process. And while you're there, say hi to our boy Scott Moynihan, who's back at Mohawk Honda and bringing 30 plus years of automotive experience with him back to Mohawk Honda. Say hi to Scott, say hi to Greg, say hi to any of the great sales consultants that will help you out to make sure you get the best vehicle for your budget and your lifestyle because at Mohawk Honda, Freeman's Bridge Road in Scotia, they always go out of their way to please you. And that is the end of Cady's Corner, which is perfect because I suddenly can feel the fact that I need a drink badly and haven't had one this entire half hour. So, that being said, enjoy the World Series. My Twitter handle is at Brian Cady, BrianCady. Questions, comments, concerns? Brian.Cady at GodzillaMedia.com. Just think of the monster Godzilla, take out the D. That's how you spell Godzilla Media. Yeah, so that's episode 27, presented by Godzilla Media, sponsored by our friends over at Mohawk Honda and Johnstone Supply. Enjoy the World Series. Enjoy your Halloween holiday. And we'll catch you after the World Series to recap the series as well as the season at large. Enjoy your baseball and enjoy your holiday.